Pakistanis head to the polls on July 25th in what will hopefully be the country's second democratic transition of power. I say hopefully because Pakistan has held 12 elections since gaining independence 71 years ago, but political stability has been a distant dream, and the military has intervened several times, directly or indirectly, in the political system. So whoever ends up running the country has a tangled web of issues to deal with. There has been an increase in pre-poll violence across the country. The recent spike in militant attacks highlights one of the main challenges Pakistan has faced over the past 17 years since 9/11. After reaching its peak in 2013, there has been a steady decline in attacks over the last 4 years as a result of military operations. But the country still heavily relies on its military to maintain law and order. Pakistan's economy is also in bad shape. There's national debt, high defense spending, plus a deficit as well as corruption. Militancy and the economy are not just linked to each other, but they also branch out into several other challenges that relate to infrastructure and social sectors. For instance, the issue of water scarcity. Despite an abundance of water a few decades ago, Pakistan's lagging policy means that the country could run dry by 2025. The country had one of the best irrigation systems in the world in the 1960s, but there's been poor planning and a lack of maintenance, upgrades, or expansions of the existing irrigation and storage systems. Now the country either remains on the brink of drought in the dry season or faces heavy floods in the rainy season. Corruption, a lack of political consensus, and funding has also resulted in delays or suspensions of the dam construction projects. A big portion of the population, especially in the country's southern rural areas, are facing an ongoing shortage of clean, drinkable water. Waterborne diseases and pollution are also on the rise, further compounding the burden on the country's dilapidated health and agricultural systems. The bulk of Pakistan's farmland is irrigated through a canal system. The water scarcity will also hit the agricultural sector of the country, which is already suffering. Pakistan is a major producer and exporter of wheat and rice, but about 60% of its own population is facing food insecurity, and malnutrition is on the rise. Pakistan has also failed to achieve most of its own targets set for the health sector. There are more doctors than nurses in the country, meaning the distribution of human resources is just inadequate. The latest figures show that Pakistan has the highest neonatal mortality rate in the world. Public health services are deficient, which means many in the country have to depend on private services. For example, despite their existence on paper, government-run ambulances are rarely ever seen in the country's largest city, Karachi. A high population growth rate of 4.2 million births annually also further strains an already overstretched, underfunded, underperforming system. With a literacy rate of 58%, Pakistan has some of the worst education indicators on earth. Girls' schools are hardest hit by militancy, especially in areas where tribal and feudal systems have been a hindrance to begin with. Corruption just makes things worse, as seen by the high number of so-called ghost schools and teachers operating in the country, mostly in the southern provinces. These institutions and teachers exist only on paper, but there's nothing actually there. The poor state of educational affairs leads to an increase in militancy and poverty, which is another major issue. Although poverty has been on the decline during the last few years, the progress has been uneven across rural and urban populations. 39% of Pakistanis still live in multi-dimensional poverty, meaning some won't be able to afford food, but they have access to education, while others get schooling but can't afford healthcare, while others get healthcare but can't afford, well, you get the picture. And disparities also exist within the provinces in some cases. For example, the largest resource-rich province, a place called Balochistan, has the most poverty. This unequal distribution of wealth is a contributing factor to child labor, which affects education, which is linked to militancy and poverty, and so on and so on. With all these lingering issues that have been festering for decades, can this vote really help to bring any improvements into the country?